Hello, this is Professor Brown-Sederberg, and I'd like to demonstrate methods calling other methods. Here we have the appropriately named class, DemoMethodsCallingMethods. You'll see that it has three methods: main, a method format phone number, and then another method hashTotal. We start with import java.util.scanner because I'd like to have an instance of the class scanner. I'll name it keyboard here in main. I'll also have a variable phone number as long. I'm going to declare that as a long. I intend to put the phone number as entered by the user in that variable. And I've made it a long because 10 digits can be larger, can represent a number larger than can be stored in an int. So we're going to make it a long, which is the largest integer type. We'll also have this string formatted and hash. Now I ask the user to enter in their 10-digit phone number. They enter it and we get it with this call to next long by keyboard. The value entered is stored into the space phone number is long. We then pass that value, format phone number as long, to this method format phone number. So here we pass the value entered by the user to the method format phone number. The value returned is stored into this space formatted and hash, that's of type string. So let's look at the method format phone number. Here's our method. It is private, static, returns back a string. It's named format phone number. Expects a long that it will refer to as number passed. Now, this method I've declared private because I don't intend for it to be used outside this class. I want it to be used only inside this class. I've declared it to be static so that it can be easily called. I don't have to create an instance of the class DemoMethodsCallingMethods in order to call this method format phone number. It'll return back a string and expects this to be passed to it. So in the first line of this method, we pass to string a method of the wrapper class long, the value passed into this method, number passed, that's a long. To string of the long class, that wrapper class, will return back the string version of the number, the long, that's passed into it. So number passed as string now holds a string version of this number passed. Now that I have the number passed in as a string, I can use the method substring, the overloaded method substring, to find substrings within that number now treated as a string. So here I'll have number passed as string, a string, call the method substring, passing 0 and 3. So I will have returned back to me the substring that is characters at position 0, 1, and 2. That will go into the space first 3. Call substring again, passing it 3 and 6. That will return back the characters at positions 3, 4, and 5. That will be stored into second 3. And then we'll call substring and pass it 6. That will return back the substring that begins at 6, position 6, the character at that position, right to the end. Those would be stored in last 4. So that would be 6, 7, 8, and 9, the characters at those positions. I now have these 3 strings, and so I can format my number. But what I'd like to do first is determine the hash total of the characters in my string. And so we're going to do that by calling this method hashTotal, passing it the number passed as string, this value right here. It will return back an int that'll be saved in this space, sum of digits. So here's the method hashTotal. You'll note that it is private, it's also static, it returns back an int, name is hashTotal, and expects a string to be passed to it. And that is indeed what we passed to it in this call. It takes the string and iterates through it, finding the ASCII values of each one of the characters, summing up those ASCII values. So here we have an int named sum with initial value of 0. We'll iterate through this for loop as many times as this string passed in is long. So we have int I equals 0 as long as I is less than number passed out length plus I. With each iteration, we will find the character at position I of the string passed in, and with this cast to int, find its ASCII value. That ASCII value will be added to the value in sum, will overwrite the value in sum. When this loop is through its iterations, we'll return back sum. So return back an int as we had promised. That returned int will come back and be stored in this space, sum of digits. This method, format phone number, will then return back the string, and it said it would return back a string. That is number, those first 3 digits here enclosed in parentheses, the second 3 digits, a dash, the last 4 digits, go to the next line, the string hash, and then the value of sum of digits. So what we see in this class is our main method calling a method, that method in turn calling another. This method hash total returns back a value. That value is included in what is returned back by this method, format phone number, which was called here. The value returned is stored into this space. The value in that space is then printed. So let's see if we can compile this. We have a clean compile, and now we'll run it. And as we enter in a phone number, we see that it is formatted and that a hash total is printed. We'll run our program again, and we'll enter this number, and we'll see that the hash total has changed as we had expected. So this is an example of a method calling another method. Methods that are created in order to be called by other methods are typically called helper methods. Hash total is certainly a helper method because it helps format phone number do what it's supposed to do. We could have included this code in format phone number and not had this method, but we might find that we use this method some other time, and so it's best to have a separate method that will do this processing. Hash total is a helper method to this format phone number. And we see in this example a method main calling another method that in turn calls yet another. That method returns back a value which is included in the value returned back by this called method back to main. Thank you.